Hi, welcome to this episode of The Daily. My name is Brendan Malone. Well, one of the things that regularly happens to me when people discover that I am pro-life and therefore opposed to the act of abortion is they say to me, "Are you a vegetarian?" And when I say no, I'm not a vegetarian, that I'm okay with eating meat, they turn around and reply something along the lines of, "Well, isn't that morally inconsistent of you? Because how could you be opposed to abortion, yet at the same time support the killing of animals for their meat? Isn't that inconsistent if you believe that all life is sacred?" Well, the first point to note is that the pro-life position is not built on this idea that all life is sacred. Instead, the pro-life position is built on this notion that all human beings who are innocent and alive should be given equal treatment. And the most important of all your human rights is the right to life. And therefore, all innocent living human beings should have their right to life respected. And because abortion takes away an innocent living human being's right to life, it is gravely unethical and it's a violation of their human rights. So that, in a nutshell, is the pro-life position. But leaving that aside for a second, I don't even think vegetarians, even those who profess vegetarianism because of an ideological belief about treating animals with equality, I don't even think that they buy into this idea of animals being equal either. And the reason I say that is that I have yet to encounter a vegetarian who holds this belief, who doesn't also think that it would be okay to actually wear woolen clothing, woolen hats, socks, gloves, whatever. And I have yet to meet a vegetarian who professes this belief, who doesn't also think that it would be okay for vegetarians to actually own pets. But here's the thing, when you think about it, what they're actually doing is they are making a distinction about the various levels of life and the way those different various levels of life should be treated. So, for example, think about what's involved in wearing wool. There is the whole act of wool production, and what you have with wool production is a group of animals, sheep, are taken and they are taken against their will and they're kept in captivity. And then every time the wool season comes around, they are roughly manhandled into a wool shed. They have, without giving consent to it, their bodily autonomy is invaded and the wool is taken from their body. They are then left cold and naked to go back outside again, so the cycle can repeat in a few more months' time. And then that wool is taken and it is made into products, or it is sold in bales. It might turn up as carpet, it might turn up as woolen socks. And people make profit off it, and not a single cent of that profit is given to the sheep. And not once do the sheep consent to that process. And think about pet ownership. What's involved in pet ownership? An animal is taken from its mother without the consent of the mother. It's just taken by another family or another person and kept in the same way that they would own a piece of property. They look after it and feed it and care for it, but they do it without the consent of the animal. They do it without the consent of the animal's mother, and often there's even surrogacy involved. If their pet gives birth to a litter of puppies or they have kittens, they might take those kittens off the mother without the consent of the mother and they might sell them and make money off it. Yet, I have yet to meet a vegetarian who professes this belief about all life should be treated equal and therefore it's wrong to eat meat, who doesn't actually have a problem with those processes. See, the interesting thing is what they're actually doing there is, ironically, they are doing the very thing that people will often accuse pro-lifers of doing. They are actually making distinctions between different types of life and the treatments that different types of life are entitled to. The other thing that's interesting about vegetarianism is I will often say to people and point out the fact that vegetarians who profess this belief that all living things should be treated equally and therefore it's wrong to destroy animals and eat them, take their meat and eat it, is they actually don't consistently apply that principle, because they actually believe it's okay to destroy living things and to consume them. And the living things that they're okay with destroying are plants. Now, plants are living things. Now, vegetarians will rightly respond by saying, but hold on, plants can't feel pain. And in response to that, I would say, okay, well then would you be okay with eating meat again if from this point onwards all animal meat production involved the anaesthetising of animals, so they were put to sleep, they didn't feel any killing, they weren't even aware it was happening, then we killed them, harvested their meat, would you then be okay with eating hamburgers again? And interestingly, a lot of vegetarians who buy into this belief about treating life equally don't want to accept that. Instead, they say, well, no, we make a distinction, and here we go again, making distinction between different types of living things, between plant life and animal life. They say that animal life has a bit more meaning and a bit more to its existence than what plant life does. And we, as pro-lifers, absolutely agree with you, because we also are doing exactly what you're doing. We are making distinctions between different types of life. The difference is that we would say that human life has a whole nother layer of importance and meaning again that makes it more valuable, just like animal life is more valuable than plant life, than even animal life is. And that's a distinction that we draw as well. So we're not being inconsistent at all by being opposed to abortion, but still eating meat. We're actually doing exactly what you're doing and making a distinction. Because you see, the pro-life position is pretty straightforward on this, that all human beings are entitled to the fundamental human right, the most important right of all, the right to life, and it is wrong to deliberately deny an innocent human being their fundamental human right, the right to life. And that's why we oppose abortion. And that's why at the same time we have no problem with eating meat, because animals aren't human beings, they don't get human rights. Just like you make distinctions between plants and animals, or between the way you treat animals and treat human beings, because you would never ever treat a human being the way that you would treat a group of sheep, even though you're okay with wearing wool. You would never have a group of human beings that are taken against their will into captivity, their hair is harvested without their consent, sold for profit, and they don't receive a single cent of it, they're instead left to remain in captivity. You would never support someone taking children off a mother and owning them as property, and then if those children grow up and have babies of their own, taking those babies off the mother without consent and selling them. Yet most vegetarians have no problem at all with pet ownership. And neither do we, interestingly enough, because we make those important distinctions just like you do. So there is no inconsistency here at all. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow on The Daily.